My mom replaced my sister's ashes with burnt wood and lied to me about it for years, letting me make a fool of myself, so I'm burying this relationship 6 feet under and she can grieve the loss of another daughter. Posted by you/thrower_in here name. My mother and father divorced when I was young. They had an oops baby together after my mom remarried, which tore that marriage apart. That oops baby was my little sister. She died suddenly in an accident 4 years ago at only 14. You know how people say the firsts after a death are the hardest? They don't account for when there are no firsts to experience. When they should have been getting ready for prom but never will, it's a completely different kind of pain. My mom and I were talking about it, we were both drinking, and she slipped up, admitting that the bit of ashes I carry, which I thought were my sister's, were just regular ashes. Burnt wood. She had already poured out my sister's ashes, without telling me or my brother, into the plot she bought with my stepdad. She couldn't comprehend my rage because, to her, the sentiment and emotions were the important aspects, not the fact that it was physically my sister. My anger stems from the lies and the fact that those sentiments and emotions were attached to something that was not my little sister. I had no idea she cast my sister's ashes onto a plot my sister wouldn't have cared about. I screamed at her to get out of my house, locked the door behind her, and called my stepdad to pick her up. I threw the necklace out the window onto the front lawn, then immediately regretted it and tore it out of her hands when she tried to pick it up. As she would say, I made a scene and embarrassed her. I kept screaming and calling her a liar whenever she tried to explain herself or get back inside. I even threatened to call the cops on her. Eventually, my stepdad showed up and took her away. He called me the next day and left a message saying he wanted to talk about what happened. He said he understood why I was angry and hurt but emphasized that I needed to talk to my mother about it too. According to him, she's a grieving mother, his emphasis, and my sister's death was a huge blow to the entire family. Everyone is still trying to regain their bearings, so he urged me to show some kindness. All I can think about right now is my mom's heartbroken face as I ripped the necklace with my sister's ashes out of her hands, or the way she turned away crying as my stepdad ushered her into the car. I called her names. I let my pain and rage consume me. But I can't get past the lies, 4 years of thinking my necklace held my sister, of believing she was right by my heart, and it all unraveled because my mom drank too much. How long would she have let me believe this? How long would the lie have continued? Update 8 days later. I gave my mother an ultimatum, either she would tell my brother and father or I would. She refused, saying, "You reacted so horribly, and told me not to say anything because, you're doing this to hurt me, and you're just going to hurt them." So, I told them. I sat my dad and brother down and explained that the necklaces didn't have the correct ashes in them. I've never seen my dad break like that, and I've never heard my brother scream at me like that. He was angry that I knew before him and didn't immediately tell him, saying, "This is the kind of thing you tell me. You needed to tell me, we tell each other everything." But then he started crying and apologizing to me, admitting he's just so mad about what mom did and that he can't handle it. I guess that's something else my brother and I share, we both get overwhelmed initially before cooler heads prevail. My dad looked devastated, but he was clearly trying to piece himself back together. He said a lot of the same things others had said to me in my previous post, we can get some of the dirt from the plot where she was scattered. The necklace has the meaning we attribute to it, and she's still with us, even if her body hasn't been physically with us. I feel bad because some of what my mom said, like the part about the necklace being important even without her ashes in it, was easier for me to accept when it came from him. Maybe it's because he didn't lie to me for 4 years and then drop a bomb on me out of nowhere when I uncovered the truth. He held my brother and me as we cried, apologized for the pain, and said it wasn't fair that I had to be the adult when my mother should have told all of us much sooner. Dad's going to try to talk to my stepfather to find the plot because my mom has been refusing to talk to us. She's not answering messages, picking up the phone, or even posting on social media. He's determined to figure out where the plot is and visit the site. I don't know if I could bring myself to go. It feels like the final proof that this nightmare is real, and my sister is mixed with dirt, rocks, and grass in an unmaintained, unvisited plot. My mom and I always had some issues, but that's normal. This, though, is worse than anything we've been through, and even worse than the rough patch when I came out, during which we didn't speak. We eventually mended fences after that, but I can't see myself ever forgiving her for this. Not after how she dropped this on me, blamed me for my reaction, and left me to do what she should have done. To make matters worse, she won't even show me the decency of explaining why or talking to me. When we discussed cremation, it was agreed that we would all get necklaces with the ashes. My mind keeps replaying things that didn't fully add up before, times she almost slipped, moments that make complete sense now. She'd almost left her necklace behind on a trip once and didn't freak out the way I would have, probably because she knew where my sister really was. She volunteered to be the one to separate the ashes and gave Dad the rest. I assume those ashes are fake, just like ours. This whole situation makes me want to curl up in a hole and never see the light of day again. I've been on and off crying all week, unable to stop. Sometimes, I get so angry I want to scream. In the middle of my workday, I suddenly find myself rushing to the bathroom to hide the fact that I'm breaking down again because I can't stop my thoughts. I quit smoking after my sister died, but I've picked it back up again. My dad has been calling me every day to check in and remind me how much he and my brother love me. I think he's scared. My brother has been coming over every day with his girlfriend to make sure I eat something. I don't know how to end this post. I feel lost and like I don't know anything anymore. I feel like a burden because my dad and brother are both dealing with this revelation too, but they're still checking in on me and thinking of me. I'm going to look into grief counseling, but the therapist I saw after my sister died isn't practicing anymore, and my insurance isn't accepted by many therapists. I try to remind myself that my little sister wouldn't have minded so much being woven into a tapestry of grass and flowers, and that once we know where she was scattered, I can visit her and make sure her sight is always beautiful. Thank you to everyone who helped me and shared their perspectives and stories. I really appreciate it. Second update 2 weeks later. This has probably been the worst month of my life in years. I'm going to start with the minor stuff that's been happening or whatever because my head just feels like a brick. I got a promotion I'd been aiming for before everything. My boss told me I had already gotten it before all this happened, but it was held off on being announced so I could have time to process before adjusting to the new job requirements. I couldn't even feel proud. I know a month ago I would have, but now I feel numb. I'm working a lot more hours than usual, typically about 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., give or take. The paycheck looks nice, I guess. My dad keeps telling me I need to work less, and so does my brother, but my job engages my mind enough that I'm nearly brain dead by the time I'm home, which is nice. I'm non-binary and prefer they/them pronouns, but she/her is not offensive. I realized belatedly that people were calling me that. I started drinking more than usual. After blacking out one night, I let my dad take all the alcohol, and I haven't bought more since. I don't think I've ever blacked out before, so it's terrifying to hear about the night but barely remember it. About my sister, my mother finally responded to my brother, and according to him, she was a wreck, crying, apologizing. All you have to understand. There must be something wrong with me because I look at her and want to hurt her. I want to break her heart, make a spectacle of her disgusting behavior, and ruin her life. Part of me recognizes that's why I'm not overly cautious about details. But at the same time, I can't do it. The rational part of my mind kicks in, and I realize it wouldn't accomplish anything except making things worse. I just feel guilty and sick after a brief moment of satisfaction. But then I think to myself, so how and why could you do that to us? For years? She and my brother had a much better relationship than she and I ever did. And yet, she still did that to him. Like yeah, Dad and she never got better after the divorce, and after the affair, they struggled with even co-parenting for a multitude of reasons. She and I have had our issues. But the bond between her and my brother has always been strong, or at least used to be, and she did this to him, of all people. She tried telling my brother that she acted impulsively, in a fit of pique, but when he pressured her about why she volunteered to handle filling the necklaces, she said it was because she was okay with it at first. But then, when she saw the ashes, she didn't want to destroy her further. Her word, destroy. Like the relationship between her living children? Like our trust in her? Like the memorial we agreed upon for my sister? I don't know how to feel or if I even trust her story. But her wording makes me feel like it was planned. God, yet again it's another accidental revelation where she tried to uphold a lie, got caught, and that's how the truth came to light. I managed to talk to the funeral director. My sister's fingerprints are part of their records. I'm going to get her touch tattooed, but I found a way to have it put on a necklace so my brother and dad can have that if they don't want a tattoo. I'm still struggling to get in contact with the cemetery owners, a lot of unanswered emails and voicemails. I've also been looking for therapists and counselors in my area or ones offering telehealth. I have an upcoming appointment, but I'm nervous. My stepfather has stepped back. He set a boundary that he won't talk to us unless we agree to discuss this without blaming anyone. Anytime the conversation starts moving toward asking about motives or who knew what and when, he says the conversation needs to end. He's even hung up on us before and threatened to call the cops on me, implying it'd be deserved after I did the same to my mother. Edit. I tried find a grave, and she's not there, same for my mother and stepdad. Third update 1 month later. I wish I could give good news, but there hasn't been much, and I haven't had much time besides working. I'm just going to keep on doing whatever this is for as long as there's not a problem. I went to therapy. I tried a few sessions, and I'm so grateful she worked with me to get me on her books, but she wasn't helpful for me. I wasn't clicking with her, and I felt unheard. I'm still on the hunt for a therapist. I feel very entitled saying that. My father is not as well as he pretends to be. He is so focused on fixing this for us that he seems to have lost sight of himself. I hate seeing him like this. My brother is angry. I have never in my life seen him so mad or heard him say such horrific things about our mother and stepfather. We all just seem to be existing. My brother tried the plot hack idea. The cemetery is full. They're not accepting new burials. I tried as well and couldn't even get the plot numbers. I got so angry I was crying. I didn't take it out on them, as it's not the cemetery's fault I can't manage my emotions, but it was absolutely crushing to come across yet another block. Our mother still won't really talk to me, with one notable exception, and even my brother is touch and go in conversation with her. She's so quick to shut everything down. The exception is this: my mother offered to let me purchase the plot from her. She said I can share it with my brother, and this way, we can be buried together where our sister is. She phrased it like she was giving me some sort of peace offering or doing me a favor. The total cost, liner, plot, headstone, permits, because our state requires one for such sales and care, will be over $9,500. She and my stepfather are willing to forego the cost of the headstone and make it easier for my brother and me, supposedly to make up for us not being there for the scattering. No mention of how Dad wasn't there either. No true sorry, just what amounts to: if you want access to your sister, pay me for the privilege. I want to say she doesn't intend it this way. I want to agree with my stepfather that this is her attempt to reconcile, so I should meet her halfway. I can't keep doing this. I want to put this behind me somehow. I want to forget about the plot. I want to forget about my mother entirely. It feels like it would be easier to completely cut her out, make peace with what I have of my sister, and never, ever think of my mother again. I feel like a horrible child for thinking that way, and my stepfather's attitude doesn't help that feeling. I tried explaining that I just want some of the dirt from the plot for part of a memorial, but my stepdad started threatening to sell it back to the cemetery because clearly nothing else will satisfy you. My brother and I agree that it's a baseless threat, especially if they really did scatter her ashes there, because our mother would never do that and then separate from the plot. We both know that even if we buy it from her, she'll still visit our sister. I can't shake the nagging concern that she did something else with the ashes, something different than she's let on, like maybe the cemetery is unrelated and she was somehow clever enough to keep up or invent a convoluted lie while drunk. I keep looking at my bank account. My brother doesn't want to buy it from her, I don't think, but he's also still furious at the offer, so I don't want to say he doesn't. He means well, I think, but anytime I try to broach the offer, he starts in about how we're making our own memorial and how her offer is needlessly cruel, so I shouldn't entertain it. I could afford it if I shuffled some bills around and worked more. Almost for peace of mind, I want to say yes and take the offer. She gave me a deadline. I still have a bit of time, but it doesn't feel like enough. My dad has taken over trying to figure out the legalities of this situation, what he can do to force her hand to share where the plot is or to make things better. He's fit to be tied. He's doing what he can, looking into legal avenues to force her to give up the location. It seems like we don't have many options. It doesn't feel right or fair. He keeps saying what my brother has said, trying to reassure me, but I can't stop thinking about it. I'm not sleeping much these days. I think the only thing going well in my life is my work, and I still haven't had anything to drink. I think maybe the next option we can try would be letting the cemetery know ashes were illegally spread on their grounds, but what will they do in response? I know I'm being paranoid and catastrophizing when I fear they'll do something to clean my sister from the plot or take it away from my mother, and I won't be able to access it. So, I guess the update is, everything is as messed up as it has been since that stupid night with my mother. I do want to address the outpouring of support everyone here has given me. It has meant the world to me and given me a place of stability and external perspective, where my current life is far too close to provide that. Thank you all. Fourth update 1 month later. Me again, for the 4th time. Sorry, I know I've been posting a lot and will move somewhere else if it's unwanted. It's just been very helpful to post here and work through it. About a month ago, my boss pressured me into not working Saturdays like usual. I wasn't, and still am not, used to having nothing to do on Saturdays anymore. I went to the park. It was overcast, muggy, and gross from the rain. My sister would have been complaining and asking to go to a restaurant instead to people watch. I probably looked like a creep while my mind raced. It was something to do. The deadline my mother gave me weighed on me like the sword of Damocles, and I felt anxious and angry every time I thought about it or noticed the date. It was consuming me. I lost my sister. I lost my mother and stepfather. I think I lost my mind. But I haven't lost my brother. I haven't lost my father. I have a steady job I enjoy. So, I stopped trying to talk to my mom. I let the deadline pass. She started reaching out to me instead, first just calls, without leaving a message, and texts asking if I was at home or if I could call her. Then there were her Facebook posts about isolation causing mental illness in the elderly, and the voicemails from my stepfather asking me to open the door to communication and reconciliation. Then she started calling me at work or in the middle of the night. The one time I picked up because I didn't check the caller ID, she immediately told me to stop being cruel. I hung up and blocked them both. My stepfather came to my door with a box, waiting there for 10 minutes before he left it behind, as per a neighbor who noticed and was concerned about a stranger on my doorstep. It was full of a bunch of pictures and junk I'd made for her when I was a child, stupid, school-level arts and crafts. I burned them all. It was strangely cathartic, like I took my first breath after being underwater. She tried using Dad to pass along messages to me. My dad refused her immediately, asked me what I was planning to do and how I was feeling, and when I said I was done with her, he supported me. So did my brother, mostly. He commented on one of her passive-aggressive "this generation doesn't know how to take care of their family's" posts, hinting at the grave, but nothing else. It's been almost 2 weeks now since she last tried to speak to me. I'm trying to just consider her and the ashes gone, just like my sister is, and focus on the memories and how I can honor my sister as she was. I recently started with a new therapist, and he's been helpful so far, but it's early on. At least I feel a little less disconnected from him than I did with the previous one. He specializes in grief and trauma. Therapy is as difficult as I remember it. It's hard to process the fact that I'm dealing with her loss again, recontextualized by such a deliberate betrayal, but also the loss of the relationship and trust I had with my mom. It was never perfect, but it's hard for a kid not to want that bond with their parent. It's even harder to realize how deep the lies went over the years and how they continue. I find myself wondering if she's crazy from grief or if she never loved me. I've set aside $2,000 into a separate bank account, and every time I buy myself something nice, or spend money on my family, or anything like that, I use that account. My brother, Dad, and I plan to go on a trip to the campground my sister loved, and I got the reservations. I bought some flowers. I went to the restaurant that she and I used to go to, and it felt like she just left the room and would be back any minute. In an inexplicable way, she kind of is. Having this money set aside is forcing me to do something with it other than focus on the plot and her ashes. I'm trying to work less, but that's almost the hardest part. I'm still averaging 70 to 75 hours a week because it helps a lot to do something I'm good at, enjoy, and that keeps my mind occupied. My sister would often try to use her minimal amount of fun money on us, Mom, Dad, Stepdad, me, and my brother, and her friends before she'd even think about herself. She was a big giver. She would use money she got from chores and her own birthday and Christmas gifts to make Father's Day, Mother's Day, our birthdays, and Christmases special. She'd always have extra on her to buy something for classmates who were hungry or thirsty. I used to lecture her about her spending because of it. I also used to sneak extra money into her little bank, and I'm sure she realized it. But basically, the point is it almost feels like I'm channeling her with this. She would want to try to get me a new sketchbook before buying the book she'd been talking about for months, and she would absolutely not want me to buy the plot. She'd hate it if I did, would tell me not to even think about it. I don't know how I haven't washed away by crying, but I'm crying again. I'm ending this post here. Thank you again to everyone. It means a lot. 5th update 4.5 months later. It's been some time since I last posted here. I don't realistically think I'll need or want to update again after this, but I do plan to keep the account because I've also been lurking in grief subreddits, which has been a big help too. I just know I posted a lot, sorry. I said it once before, but it has been really helpful to have this community support. It was actually really surprising and reassuring. It helped a lot to feel less like I was to blame for it all. I have my sister's fingerprints. I had to call again and again, and I felt terrified they would be like my mother, but the person I spoke to was so incredibly apologetic for not having delivered sooner. It was kind of nice, in a selfish way, to have someone apologize for not following through on a promise to me. Dad also found a footprint of hers in clay from when she was a baby, one of the few things my mother let him have. I'm working on finding a tattoo artist now. I'm not dead, and I'm sober since messing up again in August. Tomorrow marks 100 days. Dad is doing great. He spends a lot of time at a community center that has scheduled events and outings for older people to get together. My brother is engaged to his girlfriend. She's wonderful, she makes him a happier person, and she has a knack for reading people and making you feel like she's always genuinely happy to see you. I think in the coming months I might see if she wants to spend some time together too, to bond. It might be nice to get to know her better and spend time one-on-one. My mother showed up to visit me on September 14th. I let her in. She actually admitted she was wrong, didn't stay on that track, of course not, but she led with that hook. The first words out of her mouth were an apology. I'm so sorry I hurt you with her ashes. She even seemed like she meant it at first. I told her I didn't want to talk about anything to do with my sister. Then she boundary stomped, I'm learning from therapy, I'm just slow and dumb. She started guilt-tripping me, weeping about how this whole time she was always just trying to make things right but we couldn't come to a reasonable compromise. When she did it, she couldn't get over her own pain, and she was sorry, and life is finite, but a mother's love for each of her children is infinite. I let my pain overwhelm showing you that love, and how she kept trying to find a way to fix what she said to me so thoughtlessly. I believe her admitting it was thoughtless, but I don't believe the situation was thoughtless. She offered to separate the ashes, and she lied for years with many chances to come clean. But she said her attempts to mend things kept falling through, and we wouldn't help her find a solution for us all to have what we wanted. I didn't ask for elaboration. Call me stupid, I let it go, even though I am more certain than ever that she did something less than legal with my sister's ashes. I'm actually really proud of how I handled her apology and how it compares to how I would have just accepted it before, thanking her for it but not forgiving or absolving her. She didn't seem to notice I never said anything like it's okay, or I forgive you, or even I understand. I didn't bring up the plot or ashes again. I let myself not quite pretend we were fine, like this never happened, but I just tried to see if I could even stand to be around her anymore. We just sat together and talked about banal, unimportant things, her work, what she's been up to, other than stringing me and my brother along about our sister's remains. I even hugged her. I ruminated over that hug, that whole visit, for a while after. I have the vocabulary now to know she was hoovering me, deliberately trying to get me to come back into her sphere of influence so she could control me and get whatever it is she gets out of my emotional distress, but in the moment I was stupid. When she was leaving, I promised her that I would call more, but I wasn't ready to keep seeing her in person again. She did not like that I didn't let her come back into my life without any sort of barriers or limits. She refused to understand. She had banked on this working on me, coming over unannounced against my wishes, empty promises that she loved me, and unsubtly blaming me for the fact she refuses to tell me the full story or take accountability. Unfortunately, it would have worked before. Again, a horrible night all around, but I'm proud that I learned better. She told me, keeping yourself alone is an ugly way to live, you'll regret it later, and that my sister would hate how I'm destroying the family over a mistake that she has tried many times to fix. She said it was a mistake made by a mother suffering a loss I will never understand, and that we all stood together after her death, but I have single-handedly ruined everyone's healing process. I know ultimately my reaction gave her exactly what she wanted, a chance to play the victim because her child called her horrible things when she was just trying to make amends. My response then was like projectile vomit, but curses, vulgarity, and sheer cruelty, calling her words I have never once in my life uttered before. I told her she has been ruining our lives ever since she broke things off with Dad, that she apparently loves shaking people up and squeezing them for her own entertainment and satisfaction. I told her she is a horrible human being that I wished had never procreated because she has done nothing but bring misery into this world. The only good thing to come of her was reduced to dirt and rainwater because of her own selfishness. Things from previous years came up, big and small. The time when I came out. My first serious boyfriend that she freaked out over and made disgusting comments about. My track meet that she missed in favor of screwing around with my current stepfather. The fact she treated me like an inferior backup to my brother. Every single time she made me feel small in comparison to her love for herself. Again, I feel like an idiot. I danced to her tune, one way or another, and gave her a reaction that validated her feeling of being the real victim. I can picture it now. Can you believe my ungrateful, evil child? Yelling at me and cursing at me for apologizing for a little misunderstanding. At this point, I doubt she would bother gendering me correctly though. She ended up slamming my door on my hand, threatening to pour her ashes down the drain. I followed her to her car and just kept screaming. I have never felt such rage and irrational panic flow through me. She drove off, and I haven't entertained her BS since. She is still trying, but I know I have to wait it out. My therapist likened it to a toddler used to crying and getting a cookie, now doing it repeatedly in hopes that the cookie will come. The longer I deny her the cookie, the more likely she is to give up and search out another source of the emotional boost she gets out of it because I made it too much effort to try to get it out of me. Pretty sure that has already happened with my brother since she nosed around to ask what he was up to. I know my brother's tendencies and the way he's felt toward her ever since this began. During the fight, I started experiencing some palpitations and vertigo, as well as breathlessness and fatigue, and eventually later on nearly passing out. But I ignored it then because I was angry and focused on the fight, then later because it was only intermittent and I never actually completely passed out. Also, I didn't want to bother with it or deal with it and frankly didn't care. I cared about my job, my work, I cared about my brother and father. I really didn't have it in me to care about an issue with my heart. It was at the point I debated canceling my yearly checkup. My thought process was a little like, if there was anything wrong, I didn't want to find it. Not sure if I wanted it to get to the point of no return or just didn't want one more thing to go wrong. I've been through a few therapists at this point, to the point I wondered if I just don't want to feel better or put the work in to fix myself. But the one at the time hinted that it could be considered passive suicidal ideation and that therefore I was a risk to myself. Pretty much a false threat but enough to push me. So I agreed to go to the doctor, but unfortunately had a minor incident beforehand and had to go to the emergency room. Stress-induced cardiomyopathy. Basically, I literally worked myself up so much for so long my heart said, I want to have a temper tantrum too. Honestly, in the end, it wasn't that bad. It sounds worse than it was, looked worse than it was, because some lifestyle changes and medicine were enough. Time off work, reduced hours when I came back. No smoking. My dad's still been calling to check in often and to chit-chat, but he's not doing it daily anymore. And it's not like a big thing anymore, we're just talking. My brother and his fiancée have just happened to be in the area a dozen times since. But I do appreciate it when they come by or Dad does because it's more fun to cook for them than just one person, and my house is less quiet. The neighbor that called 911 for me never really treated me any differently, not about her having to do that for me, not about the fact I've had 2 very loud and messy confrontations that disturbed the peace. I'm grateful for it. She came by with herbal tea and ready meals for me a couple of times in the first few weeks and a jar opener to let me borrow, then surprised me with one of my own. But she didn't fuss over me or act like there was an elephant in the room either. She just treated me as normal. I appreciated it so much but didn't know how to phrase my gratitude without feeling inadequate because I'm ashamed of my issue with my mother leaking into spaces where others could have overheard. I settled for starting to bake. I used to love it. So for a while, I was just dropping these packages of brownies and cookies at her doorstep like a weirdo. Thankfully, she's not allergic to anything or diabetic, so it wasn't as if I were repaying her kindness with something harmful. I felt weird singling her out, so I also made some stuff for my other neighbors and my dad and brother and sister-in-law. Dad used to joke when I got in a baking mood I was trying to fatten them up, but he hasn't. He's just said it's nice to see me acting a bit more like myself. It's selfish of me and shows how self-absorbed I am that I didn't know the family across the street was struggling until I delivered some to them, so I started giving them actual meals too instead of just sugar. At first, I was afraid I was intruding, but they haven't told me to back off since, and it's been some time since I started. It's been nice talking to him too about his struggle taking care of his wife and kids, or getting him to go out for some time with his buddies, or getting some one-on-one time with his kids so caregiver fatigue doesn't get to him, or spending some normal hangout time with her like watching movies, or helping do her makeup and nails because it's hard for her to leave the house, or cleaning the house up or grocery shopping, or helping with the boys. I say helping with the kids, but mostly just supervise distractions for them or getting them out of their hair for a little bit of time. It feels weird being leaned on by people outside my family. I'm not good at grieving or stress, I didn't handle either right. I'm not good at emotions, and I'm still drowning some days, but I help where I can and I'm just glad that it's actual help. Plus, the kids are cute. The older one is delightfully opinionated about things like what blankets go with which sheets and which pillow needs to be in what order, and he enjoys playing games where he can boss me around and make a story. The younger one was shy at first but now practically screams hello whenever he sees me and doesn't hesitate to tell me all about what I missed since the last time I saw him, every second. I decorated for Halloween and even dressed up. It felt strangely nostalgic, even though it was the first time for me doling out candy instead of trick-or-treating or doing nothing at home. I didn't get too many kids at first, but then I lost track of time and the kids, and suddenly my bowl was empty. My across-the-street neighbors came through, and I don't know how to put it. I know the kids are dressed up, but it kind of surprised me how many kids and parents I recognized and how many recognized me as they came by, but especially how positively they seemed to react. I don't know. Makes me feel like I'm actually part of the neighborhood. It isn't like I was some recluse in the neighborhood before, but I didn't reach out much to others, and when this mess started, I was basically ignoring them. It was kind of nice to feel like they might actually enjoy having me as a neighbor. Taking down the decorations was less fun than putting them up, but I think I want to go bigger next year or see if there's anything in the community for events that maybe I could volunteer my time toward. If I remember right, the theater used to run a few plays during October, and the proceeds went to one of the high school's drama clubs. I knew the more family-oriented holidays would be difficult, so I started preparing early. Getting a game plan in place with my current therapist, who is still not the best fit but feels more like what I need, even if what she says is not what I want to hear, brother and dad, planning who to visit and when, how to handle any mom-related events, things to do to distract myself, just making plans in general. But in the end, I ate dinner with my family, and it was lovely. My brother and his fiancée hosted. It was a good time. I haven't laughed that much or spent time with my family in such a relaxed environment in a long time. I could breathe. I brought some food to my neighbors across the street in a little gift basket each for both kids, and invited my next-door neighbor over for pie and to join me in Christmas tree shopping the day after. Christmas itself is going to be hard. I know it. I could go on about why, and how the camaraderie and goodwill and the feel-goodness of everyone being together made it her favorite holiday. This is already so long. My mother's husband apparently showed up at my house on Thanksgiving, for the next-door neighbor, and dropped off a plate of food and a jar of cranberry sauce with a note. I threw it all out. I plan to talk to my therapist about it and to realistically plan on what I want to do about the fact she and her husband keep dropping by my house. My brother is just so happy with his fiancée, and she's genuinely a kind, funny person who just suits him, and he lights up around her. She asked if I would help with dress shopping, which is the ultimate proof she's a sweetheart. I'm as fashionable as a potato sack, so she's only asking out of the kindness of her heart to invite me into an important part of her wedding preparation, which truly I'm grateful for. Plus, she's thinking of going back to finish her degree before marrying, and listening to how my brother talks about her passion and drive and every other positive quality he admires is really sugary sweet, rot-your-teeth stuff. I know they fight, everyone does, but they handle those fights in a way that gives me high hopes for them. My brother and my future sister-in-law, still not used to calling her that, but I love it, haven't set a date exactly, especially if she does go back to school. It will be at least next year so they can save up. I keep looking at the amount left of that original $2,000 I put aside, and I could help a lot with that, or with her schooling. I don't know what I'll do in the end, but I think that is the perfect use of the remainder. I don't know what my mother is going to do with the rest of her life without any of her kids. Guess what? I don't care. I know I said something similar before, but I have even more support now. I have had a lot of help to recognize that what she's pulling is manipulation, not love. That helps keep me on the right track. The loss of her aches, like when you pull a rotted tooth, but I'm allowing myself to feel that pain instead of trying to fix it or numb it. She isn't the mother I want her to be. She isn't even the sort of person I would willingly want to be friends with. I don't allow myself to check her socials. I have her and her husband blocked everywhere I can. I changed the locks a while back. I don't allow myself to think much about her threat and what it means about the ashes. There's so much about this that hurts. I feel like I can't move on from my sister without it somehow being a betrayal, or like the ashes were actually inhibiting my grieving, which makes me feel like I wasn't honoring her the right way. It's hard to move on from my mother because it's practically encoded in my DNA to love her. Plus, I've never been that good about enforcing boundaries with my loved ones. I'm working on it though. I'm realizing I'm not good at ending things or wrapping them up, and I've been adding to this one update for a while now, so it's gotten really long. There's more in my present than my sister. It feels callous and wrong, but also like a good step to admit that. And I don't just mean my work, which was what I was relying on so much, or the endless chase after my mom and answers. I'm spending time with my neighbors and doing things other than working. I'm getting out of my house, actually planning for longer than a couple of weeks ahead. It feels weird. The hole is there, and it's still so deep and gaping and painful just to look at. But I don't feel anymore like the best I can do is teeter on the edge. I'm not falling in all the time or barely hanging on anymore. This time I think I actually have the support and the knowledge I need to be able to stay strong and not let my mother ruin things for me. I'm going to post this, then go out to dinner with my neighbor. Thank you to everyone who has helped me work through this absolutely nightmarish roller coaster and to get to this point. I owe a lot to all of you. I never would have dreamed of feeling even an ounce like I could ever come out of this spiral for a long time.